Yes, Norman Vincent Peale had the book called The Power of Positive Thinking. And I had picked it up, read it, and there were two things that really enticed me to research further, and that was when he said, you can have anything you want, provided you know what it is. See yourself as already having it. And those were three things that intrigued me. And I was, just a little happy homemaker, no education, high school education, period. And the mother of three and sitting home and needing a lot of little creature comfort things, And so I thought, well, that sounds exciting. So that night, my husband got in and I said, I read this book. And I said, what would you like? And he was reading the Dallas Morning News. And he said, well, looky here, Coca-Cola has a contest. And you can win an outboard motor. All you have to do is write 25 words while you take Coca-Cola on outings. And I said, and then outboard motor. And then he went on and finished reading his paper. Well, I went into the bedroom and he's wanting an outboard motor. So I sit there and I thought, Coca-Cola on outings, a pad. And I thought, we don't even drink Cokes. That's going to be a tough one. But I saw him sitting in a boat with his motor, enjoying himself. And so I wrote, he liked to go fishing by himself on weekends because he had a very serious job. And he was always stretched out, and the kids were too young to take him fishing at that point. And so he'd go out for the afternoon. Okay, so now I'm sitting there and I see him in this boat and I write, I'm a lone wolf fisherman. Cokes are my silent partners. They contribute no yakety yak, only enjoyment when called upon. 25 words. Put it in an envelope, mailed it off, and actually said to him, I wonder how long it's going to take him to let us know we won. Now, that's positive thinking. I didn't know any better. I just knew I wrote that story, that incident, he's got to win it. 2 weeks later, the representative from Coca-Cola called and said, Mr. Hadsell, you won your outboard motor. I thought, well, that's nice. Now, what would we like to win? See, now what would we like to win? And my daughter said, well, I'd like a swing bicycle. And I said, and you want what color? I thought, well, everybody should do this because selected, here it is, see yourself as having it. So we had her sitting on a bicycle. And it was, now at that point in time, there were many, many opportunities for contests. And most of them, see, a contest is when you have to complete something in 25 words or less, name something, write an essay. A sweepstake is when they just put your name in the pot and they draw, from 1 million entries, they draw your name. I didn't think of that as competition. I always thought the only competition you ever have is with yourself. And that's when you doubt yourself. So now, my daughter, we had to name a pony, and it got to be, now this was a fun thing. And my son, we didn't look for big things. Roller skates, bicycles, and things that were that children wanted. Boom boxes, for music and stuff. And so we started. We would sit at night, and I says, "Oh, we're going to get Pamela her bicycle, and we have to name a pony. How are we going to name a pony?" And I show them a picture of a pony, and they said, "Well, he's brown." And I said, "Yeah, he's brown. And what else? And what else does he do?" Well, I said, "Does he prance?" Well, then we call him Prance Charming. Prance Charming. And you get on a pony. What else? He bucks. Timbuktu, Prince Charming. And these were what we call coined words. And that's what we send in. I don't know which entry won, but she had her swing bicycle. Okay, so then we got all the little stuff. Now I want linoleum for the floor, and I get linoleum. Then I want something else, and I get it. Now I'm thinking bigger. Now I want to win trips. And my son, my younger son said, oh, let's go to a dude ranch. Do you know, we won this trip to a dude ranch, and stupid me, this was in Arizona, and that's when I was afraid of flying. And I won the prize, they're gonna fly, and I said, I don't fly, can we drive down? And then I didn't get the prize, because you had to follow their rules. And so, he was very, very ticked about that. You have to learn to fly, you have to learn to fly. Well, now, the next thing I wanted, the children wanted to go to Disneyland. And that meant flying too. And I thought, well, I'll just brave it out. Really and truly, I was stupid on that area, but at that time I didn't know better. And so we get to, won this trip to Disneyland. We all get there. And it was a fabulous, fabulous trip. And later on, we did win a trip to Dude Ranch, and we did go to the Dude Ranch, and then we won a trip to the World's Fair, did go to the World's Fair, and one thing that was real funny, I was going to be 40 years old, and I had read that Paris is a city of light, love, and excitement, and I wanted to be on the 1st of January. I said, what are we going to do this year? And Pat said, well, I said, I want to be in Paris, France, sitting at a sidewalk cafe, drinking wine on my 40th birthday. And I started to enter contests, only contests that were offering trips. And there were many of them. There was a lot of trips always in contests. Always 25 words or less. And I always used the same 25 words. I said, I'm a pooped couple with 3 kiddos, and I'd like to go to Paris, France, to recapture the rapture of springtime ecstasy in my fat, 40 frustrated years. That's the only thing I wrote. Well, the first time, one company investigates, before you win a big prize, you're investigated, they call you or they come out, interview you, and they do that to find out if you are any way related to the sponsors, any way related, because contesting are really on the up and up. And if they wouldn't be, I mean, it wouldn't serve any purpose. So I had the interview, and everything went fine, but I only won 3rd prize, which is a Hammond electric organ, and it didn't win that prize. And I said, well, why did they give me an electric organ? And you know, somebody said to cultivate patience. So I have this big electric Hammond organ, and here it is now. My birthday's the 1st of June, and here it is April already, and I still haven't had this trip now. We're going to have to plan this trip. We're going to be there drinking wine, and my husband even said, well, we have enough money. I said, no, I'm going to win this with a trip. Well, it seemed like the last minute. I send that entry off, and lo and behold, I got a phone call and said, Mr. Hadsell, I used his name and and my name, you won a trip to Venice, Italy. And I thought, well, I don't want to, I've been to Venice, I want to go to Paris. And the man said, well, you can change, there's first class and you can change whatever you want to do. And he said, when would you like the tickets? I said, like right now. And he had a messenger come and bring these tickets. And we got on the plane, and to make a long story short, on my 40th birthday, I was at that sidewalk with my husband drinking wine. So we did this. This is something else I need to bring up because I thought this was, well, it was nice. My husband and I are sitting here one afternoon, and I just got back from a trip, a long trip, and sometime he went with me and sometime he didn't. And he'd go with me first time, and then the second time he got bored because I was always counseling people, and then at night I was in my, and he knew everything, so. But anyway, we're sitting here, he said, let's do something let's do something exciting. What do you want to do? I said, you know, I love New York. I said, and I noticed in the paper that they're having this, the best little whorehouse in Texas. And I said, I would love to go and see that off-Broadway show. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, let's have lunch, and I'll start calling the airlines, and we'll see what we can do. He says, sounds like fun, doesn't it? We're eating lunch, and we come back here for coffee, and the phone rings. Mrs. Hadsell, I said, yes. He said, I'm Rich Little, you don't know him, but he was producing a show to tell the truth in New York. And he said, your name came up as a very, very good contestant. How would you like to come to New York and be on my show? I said, I looked at Pat and I thought, God, is this for real? And I said, what is it, Tom? He said, well, it's to tell the truth, and the show had just started. And he said, we'll pay all your expenses first class, and what else do you want? And I said, could I have tickets to this off-Broadway show? Will Success Ball Rock Concert? And he said, no, what else? And I said, well, my husband wanted to come. Well, okay, we'll do a trip. We'll give your husband a ticket also, and what else? I mean, you know, when they want you, they want you. And he said, everything that we advertise, you will also get. Electric blankets, mix, whatever they were advertising. I said, when do you want me? When do you want? He said, well, you can come this week or next week. And I said, well, let's see. This week. Well, we'll have your tickets for you. So, York. Play. 3 days. They usually pay. And they, if you want a cab to go wherever you want to, eat wherever you want to, and entertain you. Really, it's nice to be on these talk shows. Well, we had our little thing again. So what is it? I mean, you know, there were many, many instances where I would hear of something. The thing, I'm digressing, I'm sorry, because you're interested in being a winner. And all of you out there are winners. You know that. And you can have anything you want, provided you know what it is. See yourself as having it. And if there's a delay in results, don't be disappointed. Maybe you need to cultivate a little more patience. That's all it is. And it's yours. And you say, but the competition is so fierce, so fierce. And I says, everything is competition. How long? I mean, eventually, if you stay with something long enough and strong enough, it's energy. And it's got to come to you. That's the law of attraction. It's out there for anybody. I never looked at it as competition. I remember when after I had the publicity and had won that house in Las Colinas and had won all the cars and whatever I needed or wanted, this was very interesting because that night we went to dance. And we're dancing, and right as you came in, you signed in, and they had this fishbowl, put your name in at the end of the night. They had fruit cakes because it was Christmas time, and they had this big boom box. And my daughter had been wanting this huge boombox that had all these acoustics and things out. And I looked at it and I said, oh, there's Pamela's Christmas present. Well, the woman that was taking the tickets, overheard me. And she laughed and she said, well, Mrs. Hadsell's here. So really and truly, it's stupid to put your name in the Hadsells won the boombox already. All right, what did I do? They were giving me their energy. Everybody in that room gave me energy because they knew now we'd won this house. And we're dancing, and this man said, I guess she's got, and Pat said, she's got the boombox. And they're making a joke of it, a joke. And they don't know that I didn't take their energy, they gave it to me. And that night, when his boss, now it's time to have the drawing, and here's that fishbowl full of names. And the boss said, I'm not going to have anything to do with this. Somebody come up and draw a name. And a woman came up and she said, I'll get a different name. And she whisked around and pulled a name, and it was my name. Okay, this is energy. This is energy. This is what they do. And yes, you can get energy from someone else. If they're negative, I mean, why not?
You mentioned the house. Can you tell us more about how you won the house?
Yes. I came back after my trip, and in Dallas, we have a group of women that get together, and we call them the contest. We call them the range riders. And when we got there, we would swap entry blanks. We would stand up and say what we won this month. We won this and this and this and this. 1 month I won a prize every day. 30 prizes, 1 prize every day. Some of them would win 4 or 5 of them, and we had a lot of fun, and they were very supportive. So the night I got there, one of the women said, oh, you won the world's, you went to New York on your way to Paris. Did you stop at the World's Fair? And I said, yeah, my son won a trip to the World's Fair. So he was with us, and then after the trip, we were at the World's Fair, he went back home on a plane, and someone met him and so forth. And we went on to Paris. And she said, while you were there, did you see that Formica house? She said, that's an entire United States contest, and Formica is having a new product that they're sponsoring, and they're going to build a house someplace in the United States. And all you have to do throughout the United States, the builders were building their houses, but they were using this molding that Formica was very, very proud of using. So anybody throughout the United States, you had to visit one of the homes that had these entry blanks that were using Formica. Well, in my area, it was Garland, the only place that had this thing. And she said, well, you could enter. I said, no, I didn't know about it. I didn't know about it. Well, it's in Garland, and it's closing next week. And so on the way home, driving home, because Dallas is 27 miles from Irving, rather, all I could think about was, God, I'd like to win a new house. That's perfect. Yeah, I think I'll win that house. So the next day, it's drizzling, and two of my friends that were in this contest club with me live in Irving. So I called one of them and I said, let's go over and see that Formica house and enter. And she said, you know, they've already picked the entries. It's in New York, and they've already picked the entries. And she said, no. And the other one was having her rug shampooed. She couldn't go. And I tried. I said, I'll even buy you a pizza on the way. Let's go. And nobody would go with me. It's starting to drizzle, rain, and something actually pulled me out. The next thing I knew, I'm in the car driving 53 miles to go to that Formica house. And when I got there, I sat in one of the chairs and I looked at everything around there, And I'm already deciding that I want Spanish furniture. I'm already building the inside of the house. And there wasn't anybody there except the woman that sat, at the open house. I registered my name and I registered Pat's name. And I took an entry blank home. And that night, I'm reading the entry blank and it said, you must have visited the home. And I said, oh my God. I put in Pat's name and Pat might win this. Do you know that Saturday morning, Pat got up and I said, we're getting in the car, you're driving to Garland and you're going to look at that house. So when they call you, you can say you visited that. He did. He got to where he believed what I said. We drove all that way so he could look at that house. And that was it. It was a done deal. Now we come home and he draws the plans for the house. And he tells the kids, Mama's going to win us this big house. Where do we want it? We're out looking for lots. We've got the plan here, so when they come, we can be ready. And then it was a month. Now the contest closed that weekend. It was a month later when somebody on the phone called Pat. I'm in Dallas, and they called Pat. And they asked Pat, is Mrs. Hadsell there? No, she's at a meeting. Your husband? He said, yes. He said, did she enter that, did she go to that Formica home? And Pat said, oh, we were both there. I'm so impressed with that laminated Formica. We were so impressed. And he said the right thing. And that was it. And he said, we're just checking everybody to see if they actually did go, and there's nothing here. Thank you, Mr. Hadsell, for your time. That was all he said. He asked, are you related to anybody at the house, number one. Number two, any relations that work for Formica. Those were questions. So he was on the phone 5 minutes answering all this. And he knew that because we knew when we got a big prize we'd have to have an investigation, we call it. And so I came home that night and he was ecstatic. Well, we won our house. And all we did was, I wonder how long it's going to take them to let us know we won. And that's all I told the kids. And so it was about another month later. Morning I woke up and I said, the kids were at breakfast, the 2 boys were still there, and my daughter was in college, and I said, well, listen, they're going to let us know we won this house. For God's sake, act surprised. And they went off to school. And my husband said, are you sure they're coming? I said, yeah. And I said, just stay in bed. And I said, pretend, we're just going to wait for them. Well, at 2 o'clock, and now it's 1 o'clock, and I went to the bakery to get some bakery, and I'm getting ready to put the coffee pot on when they come, and nothing happens. And about 2:30, I get this phone call, and they say, Mrs. Hadsell, when does your husband get off work? And I said, well, he's here now. They were waiting for him to get off work so they could tell us together. I said, well, he's here. And I said, he just took the day off. Well, then we're coming right out. We're representatives, vice president of Formica, and our PR man. We want to come out and tell you something very, very interesting for you. And I thought, yeah. And then I, of course, reminded Pat to act surprised, They came in the door. I acted surprised. Oh my God. Oh no, not me. Oh no. And I told Pat, don't show him the plans. So we're talking and he said, well, where do you want it? And I said, well, there's a new area, and I said, and we have the plans. And the guy looked at me, and I said, well, we were planning. We were planning on building a house, but we didn't tell them that they were going to pay for it, you know. And so we had all the plans there, and he couldn't believe it, you know. And I said, yeah, we had plans of enlarging this place, and that's how it came about. And from that period on, they hired an interior decorator. They hired so many people because it was publicity for their Formica. They would call me, they send me flowers. One weekend, he'd always call and say, are you happy? Are you happy? Because at that time, the National Enquirer, which is that rag magazine, called and said, if there's any negative things, because this is the first time a house had ever been given, if there's any negative things, tell us and we'll pay you for the negative. And I says, get it real, and hung up. And I had that offer 2 or 3 times, and they were aware that they were looking for negative things. And there weren't any negative. But he'd call up and say, are you happy? Is there anything we can do? And every time they came, they wined us and dined us at the best hotels. And so one day he called and he said, what's your favorite place? And they were building, and he kept coming and visiting, bringing me candy, flowers, and so forth. And I said, God, would I like to go to New York? Okay, we'll send you to New York. And they brought us first class tickets. My husband and I went to New York. And at that time, the play was on Broadway, Will Success Spoil Rock Hunter? That was the play I wanted to see. And they sent me to New York. And while I was in New York, I did a lot of publicity with one of the magazines, the Good Housekeeping magazine. And they interviewed me and so forth. And then they had the house open for a month where they could, people came in, and I was just a hostess, and they had people there that took care, cleaned the house and so forth, and then it was turned over to us officially. Gold keys. We had a gold key. My husband and I each were given a gold key, and then he asked, listen, that's a big, at that time, that period, in the 50s, 60s rather, income tax was a big challenge if you won a lump sum and you had to pay it right away. And he said, if income tax is a problem, we'll take care of it. You know, I mean, they couldn't do enough. They couldn't do enough. That was fabulous.